This episode of Passing the Plate is sponsored by Storied Book Recipes from Storied.com. Welcome to Passing the Plate, the podcast that's all about food, traditions, and the wonderful connections they create. I'm Lisa Lisson, the genealogist and family history expert behind Are You My Cousin?
And I'm Ashley Covelli, the food writer and recipe developer behind Big Flavors from a Tiny Kitchen. We'll be your guides on this flavor-packed adventure. We're not just talking about recipes. We're diving into family history, exploring new cultures, and preserving favorite recipes for future generations. In short, we're celebrating the stories and tastes that come with every bite.
So grab a seat at the table and let's embark on a journey of flavor, tradition, and connection. This is Passing the Plate, where every episode is a feast for the senses and a celebration of the ties that nourish our souls. Today, we are thrilled to welcome to the podcast a special guest, Cynthia Christensen of But First We Brunch. Cynthia is a lifelong passionate cook who has turned her love of food into a career. She trained in James Beard-nominated bakeries and alongside multi-James Beard finalist chefs like Chef David Viana, and butchers in both restaurants and private chef environments. A two-time Burger Bash champion at the New York City Wine and Food Festival, Cynthia is a frequent live guest on local New York City morning shows such as New York Living on WPIX 11, where she shares new and exciting breakfast and brunch recipes.
So I've known Cynthia for many years now through, being in the same industry as recipe developers and culinary instructors. And we finally met in person a few years ago at a conference in Brooklyn. So I'm really happy to report that she's just as delightful in person as her online presence. And let me tell you, her Instagram stories are mesmerizing. Like I don't often sit through and watch people demonstrate cooking things because I also do that. But I love your stories. They're so great.
Thank you.
Yeah. And while Cynthia has a ton of experience with all things brunch, hence the name of her Instagram handle and her website, and she's even dubbed the Biscuit Queen of New Jersey, she also has a very interesting culinary background of both Korean and Southern cooking. So Cynthia, we'd love to know more about how you got interested in cooking. Like maybe what's one of your earliest cooking memories?
I'm actually working on a cookbook right now, and a lot of it is talking about my whole thesis of it is how some people have this big, rich food history and heritage and family members to call upon on what my grandmother cooked this with me, and I remember being by her side and all of that. And I don't have a lot of that history or know a lot of the history because I come from a background both South Korean and Central Mississippi, where nobody talked about anybody. It was just, my mother was a war refugee. My father did not agree with the political and moral beliefs of a lot of the family in Central Mississippi. So they didn't talk about it, but I have food memories that I'm constantly chasing.
I love that.
So taste memories, I call them. So when I make something and I know when it's absolutely 100% on point because I'll feel tears come to my eyes.
Oh, I love that.
I'll make my grandmother's biscuits, and it's like I literally made those 2 months ago. It hit that was the exact taste and texture.
Amazing.
And just started to cry. And my husband came running in to see if I was okay. But I'm just the culture comes into my cooking because I'm trying to. It started with actually a diabetes diagnosis.
Okay.
About 12 years ago. I was, like most busy moms, just trying to get food on the table. We owned a bookstore. We were all there. We got home and everyone's scrambling to put something on. If it was, mac and cheese from a box and, zhuzh up some chicken tenders with, a lemon butter sauce, just do something, right? But when I got the diabetes diagnosis, I started to look at what I was actually ingesting, what was I really eating, and saw there was so much processed food. So I just started cooking and paying attention and got more and more interested in it. And it evolved into this almost obsession so that when I left working in bookstores, by this time I'm in New Jersey, I actually quit. Whole big story there. I was a manager and I abruptly quit and told my district manager, oh, well, I have 5 bakery offers, which I had 0 bakery offers.
So, I love that.
So I don't ever want to be a liar. So I immediately went out and interviewed and got 3 of those 5. So I was
Wow.
not quite a
Talk about
liar.
manifesting, right?
So I
Yeah,
just
seriously.
I took one, I moved up, I took another. Um, so it was just like it became this thing that I thought about all the time, and it suddenly became the thing I needed to do all the time. So
Wow. So did you start with cooking a lot of Korean food at home or just anything from scratch so that you were cooking more and less
I was
packaged?
I was cooking. I've always cooked a lot of Korean food for my kids because I wanted them to have that culture. My mother passed away when my kids were very young, so
Mm.
I wanted them to taste their grandmother's food. So I worked on those recipes until I got that taste memory. And so I would make japchae, which is the vegetables, meat, and noodles, the bulgogi, the galbi, the Korean short ribs. And they grew up on that, and those were perfect. Those are
Mm.
my touchstones to my South Korean heritage. We learned to make our own kimchi until I got my mother's recipe down. And so those things, I was just working till we got them right together as a family.
Mm. And that's a great family activity too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that term taste memory that you use because I just feel like
Mm-hmm.
it is so ingrained in us. I think that's such a wonderful thing. And so as you were working on getting say your mother's recipes, those Korean foods that you grew up with for your children, did you have siblings that you were able to bounce ideas off of? Or was it truly just you and your children going on that taste memory that you had?
It was just me. My brother lives 3,000 miles away, and he is very much a by the book cook. So I know
Okay.
that he cooks, but he will never stray from a recipe that's in a book. He won't ever experiment with something. He has to have it written down. And like, I know one thing that he hated was if I would make something and just ad lib it. And he'd say, well, now
Hmm.
you can never have that same recipe again. I'd say that no, but it's okay. It'll be close. And he's like, no, you have to have the exact same. So
Oh, that's
that's the
funny.
kind of
Ah,
that's the kind of cook he is. Which, as all of us know, cooking is very much like it's very much like freestyle.
Mm.
mhm.
Professional cooks will tell you when we're out there cooking, it's about this much salt, right? Which is how my mother taught me to cook. She'd say, "You put this much salt your hand." And so I'd look and I'd be like, well, my hand is bigger than yours, Mom. You this much. She'd yell at me, this much. Okay. Oh God. And so I'd have her take that salt from her hand and I'd put it in mine. And then I knew how
Hmm.
much salt was in my hand. And so now that's how much. So, and that's how I taught my kids, put this much in your hand. And
I
I
love
think the only other cook I've seen that does that is Rachel Ray.
Mm. Yeah.
I
She
love
will say
that.
about a teaspoon and then, but she'll pour it in her hand and then she
Yeah.
tosses it in.
Yeah, I know when I was trying to record a lot of my father-in-law's recipes, he's from Italy and then he also lived in Belgium, so he has a lot of really great recipes, but he was totally cooked by feel. And so I would like get in there with that measuring spoon and like find because
Right.
just to get you close. And then yes, like once you get it close, experiment with it. Maybe you don't like one of the ingredients as much or you want to add something, but I feel like having that starting point is really important for a lot of people just to get you most of the way there. And then like adapting it for your current lifestyle, I think is it's great.
One thing that's really difficult, though, about Korean cooking itself is there are so many different flavors in different regions.
Mm.
So, someone from Southern Korea, I don't mean of South Korea, but in the southern part of the peninsula, they might have more of a sweet and salty balance. Whereas in Northern Korea, I'm saying for japchae, which is the noodle dish, whereas in Northern Korea, they might have more of a sweet flavor profile,
Oh,
and
interesting.
it's much more liquid in it. Not to say that it's like soupy, but or anything, but it's more
Hmm.
liquid than say down south. And on the coastline, they might add more salty flavors because they're by the sea, and they add fish and they different flavors that we don't necessarily get inland. So
Yeah. So
Oh,
very
that's so
regional.
interesting.
right.
Yeah,
So we
very
found a
rich.
restaurant here in New Jersey that serves my mother's flavor profile of the same foods. So it's
Oh,
the only one we go
wonderful.
to, and it was her favorite.
Oh, I
So
love that.
when she was alive, we took her there, and she said, "This is just like my home," and they're still open.
Oh, that's amazing because
Okay,
it's
Ashley,
that
we
good.
need a road trip
Yeah. Wait,
for
give what's
this.
the name of this restaurant?
It's
Unless you don't want
Kim.
to give it up.
Oh no, they've been there forever, and literally they have the same exact furniture, everything. It's called Kim Ho Garden, KEUMHO Garden in
Okay.
Edison, New Jersey. And here's the thing: is after my mother passed in 2002, we moved to Oregon for about 12 years. And when we came back, I didn't want to go to that restaurant because
Mm,
that's where I last ate
yeah.
with my mother. And a couple of years ago, something told me, I think it was my mother's 85th birthday, would have been. And my husband and I were driving to the restaurant we'd been going to, but that was a left turn. If we made the right turn, it was the other restaurant. And I said, turn right, turn right, turn right, like just clapping my hands. She's like, what? I said,
Oh,
turn right, turn right. And we went in. I walked in and, okay, I'll cry.
oh my
The
gosh. I'm
waitress,
gonna
it was
cry.
the same waitress who
Oh,
served us all those times. And I came in and she hugged me. She said, it's so good to see you again. It had been 22 years.
wow.
I'm not kidding
Wow.
you. I know she remembered me
That's
because she
amazing.
just hugged me. And that's not something you do. And
Yeah.
so good to see you again. And the same room, we would always take this little room and sit with my mother and all of my kids. And when my brother visited, him and his wife and kids. So it was right there. And she recognized me. And so now that's where we go.
Oh, I love
We
that.
found it again and we go back. And the other place was good, but it wasn't my mother's.
Right.
Right. So this one I'm back and everything is exactly the same. Nothing's
Wow.
changed, except they have a robot that serves the namul, which is they have a robot who comes out and delivers the little dishes, the banchan that
Yeah.
goes at the table. So
Yes, I have got to come and do this. This sounds like
Yeah.
so
I know.
much
I need
fun
to
and
see how far
sounds
Edison
delicious.
is from where I live. It's probably not.
it's a little strip mall, hole in the wall, which
Those
is
are the
exactly what
best.
my mother said is the best food.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
So if somebody is going to a Korean restaurant or somewhere where they could try Korean food for the first time, what would you recommend as both a good introductory order and then what's something that you would like to encourage people to try that might be like outside of their comfort zone?
So, what I always ordered for my kids, and it's still their favorite order, even though they're quite adventurous now. We go in, we get the mandu, which is the gui mandu. It's the fried mandu, which is a dumpling, not unlike pot stickers, but they're not like cooked in a pan and then the water evaporates and all that stuff. They're just fried.
Hmm.
And my kids have been making them since they were old enough to pick up a dumpling wrapper
Love.
and they make it that tastes just like my mother's. So you get the gui mandu, the fried mandu, the japchae, which is the clear vermicelli potato starch noodles
Hmm.
with fresh vegetables and sautéed meat. You can get it vegetarian, but don't. Um,
But it's good to
um,
know that that's an option if you're dining with a vegetarian.
it is.
Yeah.
Then get I loved to have them cook at the table. If you have a large enough group where they grill right in the table and get the bulgogi,
Mm.
which is, the sweetened meat marinade. You can also get the kalbi, which is the short ribs. They'll cook them
Mm.
right there. They come out with scissors and cut everything. Um, and then if you like it a little spicy, techi bulgogi, which is the spicy pork. It's like what is it? Pork belly, but it's very
Okay.
thinly cut and still
Oh,
that's
nice.
nice and spicy, like good spicy.
Yeah.
And then they'll serve you the panchan, which is all the small dishes of the kimchi and the bean sprouts and all of that kind of namul that they put at the table. And um, takmandukok, which is the rice cake and dumpling soup that my mother made when I was growing up. It's a New Year's soup. Usually it's just tteokguk, which is the rice cakes.
Yeah.
But my mother added mandu. So
Oh,
we
wow.
put it in there and let it cook in there. So, and I have a recipe for that on the blog, and it's like my favorite.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
so we get that and share. Then, if you're more adventurous, you might move into like a jjigae, which is soup or stew. So you could start with something simple like, a soft tofu jjigae or kimchi jjigae for spice. My favorite is Buddha jjigae, which is army stew.
Okay.
So it came about right after the Korean War, like right towards the end. And the only foods that we had were the foods that the soldiers brought us or left for us. So that's where the Korean and later Hawaiian obsession and Japanese obsession with
Mm.
spam came from, was
Oh,
because
interesting.
that was how soldiers got their meat. So we had cans of spam. My mother loved a Vienna sausage, so I always put those in. Love a Vienna sausage. Um, and my kids don't love it when I put this in, but the baked beans, because they had a
Mm-hmm.
can of baked beans. And then you just like the ramen noodles. So you make this really spicy soup base with kimchi and gochujang, which is the red chili paste. And you have that boiling like crazy. And then you add in any little things you want, like you put tofu and you can put your spam, all that stuff kind of around very decoratively. And then
Mm-hmm.
in the center, you put your ramen and you let it just sit and bubble in the little squares. Just let it bubble and just keep poking at it with your chopsticks. And then last thing you do is you put 2 slices of American cheese on top. You
Of
let that
course.
melt completely. And it just kind of I didn't want to do that, but I'll tell you what, when you do it, it just turns into like this cream that like
Mm.
softens the spice. And
Oh,
then
nice.
everyone just kind of serves themselves out of the big wok that's going. So,
Wow. I have to say,
Yeah.
through watching you prep things, especially like baked goods, which we'll talk a bit more about the brunch side of things momentarily, but seeing you like use chopsticks to whisk eggs, I'm like, why doesn't everybody do this? This makes so much more sense than a balloon whisk that's like obnoxiously big to try to get in a bowl. Like yeah.
I don't think my mother ever owned a whisk. And I was getting I remember it was like 10 years ago, I was getting so irritated when you're going to whisk eggs. And you know how the egg sticks to that top
Yes.
part where all the wires come together and it just hanging there. And I'm so annoyed. So I just picked up chopsticks and started whisking, and it whisks in like 10 seconds better than any balloon whisk. It
Mm-hmm.
whisks thoroughly. There's no whites left or yolk. It's all together. And then you just have 2 sticks to clean rather than
Yeah.
trying to dig stuff out of a balloon whisk.
Yes.
So that's what I use. And so
It makes so much sense. I keep
someone
telling
Really
actually,
myself
does.
I'm going to do it and I don't, but now I'm telling myself again, I'm going to do that. It makes so much
I
more
actually,
sense.
I actually tried it because I forget what I was making, but I enjoy watching the Korean or the K dramas. And so I had seen that and I was like, that makes so much sense because they were doing it on one of the shows. And I tried it. And I'm not very adept at using chopsticks at all, but I was like, that worked. And I was like,
Yeah.
we're on to something here.
Well, I feel like
yeah, you don't
that,
have to know how to hold them. You just have to
yeah.
have 2 chopsticks in your hand and just beat them up. That's
I
it.
feel like
Exactly.
that and like using scissors to cut food is also, I feel like it's a very Korean thing. And I do
It
it with
is.
something. Yeah. Like I have a friend who would like cut pizza with scissors. It's like, it's just what you do, but it's really handy. Get a good pair of kitchen scissors and
You go to the Korean
yeah.
restaurant, they do the barbecue grill, and they come out with the scissors and the
Yep.
tongs and they cut your meat for you.
Yeah.
You don't need a cutting board, you just cut it. I
Yeah.
do that
Less dishes, less dishes.
when I'm cutting chives. I
Hmm.
use
Same.
scissors.
Oh,
Why
I
am
do
I
that
going to
too.
chop? They go rolling all over the place.
And I'll tell
I just
you,
hold it over.
my husband got me one year, like as a stocking stuff or something, those ones that's like multi-blade scissors that like it's got like 4, but I don't like those. I don't know. They didn't, for me, it was just annoying. I'm like, no, I'll use my regular kitchen scissors. That's fine.
Yeah, I tried the specialized scissors to make fancy green onion curls. Have you ever gone somewhere and they have like these
Mm-hmm.
curly green onions? They're super simple to do. You just have to keep it attached at one end and then you just cut very thin strips so it's still attached at the end and you toss it in a bowl of ice water
Mm-hmm.
and then they just curl up. But they sell these ones that like rips down them, but they never
Yeah,
work
no,
right. It's like I don't need a single use gadget
no,
in my house.
no. Nobody's got room for
oh,
that. Well, some
absolutely
people
agree
have room
with
for that.
that. Yeah.
I do not.
I think a lot of times the people who have room for those things are the people who don't cook a ton.
Yes.
It tends to
Yeah.
be.
They think if
I'll
they
agree.
have the gadget, then they'll make the thing.
Yeah. Oh, no, they won't. It sits and collects
Yeah.
dust.
Well, I was going to circle back to your southern roots, and when you work as your mother, living in Mississippi, and you said I think you guys lived in Texas as well. How did that influence her cooking? Did she bring in any of the southern type of cooking with that? Because Southern cooking and Korean cooking are very, very different.
They are very different. And
And did
no, my mom, my father is my brunch influence. My mother is my Korean food influence, although she made the best spaghetti sauce known to man.
Wow.
I will say, and I still make it. I call it all regrets to Eminem, but we call it Mom's spaghetti. We've been calling it Mom's spaghetti way before Eminem was even born. It's Mom's spaghetti. So, apologies, but it's mine. Anywho, so, and also lasagna, which for some bizarre reason had hard boiled eggs in it. But
oh, that's
I'm
interesting.
intrigued.
I don't know what to tell you. It's really, really good.
I trust you.
Trust you.
It's just literally lasagna with the spaghetti, with Mom's spaghetti sauce, and then mozzarella, and then chopped up hard-boiled eggs. There's a texture thing that's happening. I don't know. But anyway, she did, that was her realm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she did like a lot of casseroles that she would get from friends or clients. She was a hairdresser. They would give her recipes to make casseroles and stuff. And as the daughter, that was my responsibility to make, because she would be at work and I had to feed my older brother. Patriarchy, let's go. Anyway, but my father was for brunch. So a lot of my pancake or waffle or French toast, that's all my dad and his side of the family. And he passed away last year. So every time recently, I just rediscovered his buttermilk pancakes. Even though they've been on the blog forever, I'm in a real buttermilk pancake era right now, because it really makes me think of Saturdays, and Dad would make pancakes. And then Saturday nights we would have tacos. And then so Sunday morning he'd make biscuits and gravy with the leftover taco meat, or,
Would it be spiced with taco seasoning?
Oh, it was just salt and pepper.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
I don't think there was taco seasoning in the early 70s.
Or like different. Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't remember if we had it or not.
Yeah. He's just, he was just a Southern boy. Salt and pepper was pretty much.
And bacon grease.
Used. Oh God. If you don't have a can of bacon fat by your stove, who are you and how are you living your life? I don't understand.
They're going to revoke your Southern card. They'll revoke your Southern card if you don't have that right.
Now, I do keep mine in the refrigerator now. My grandmother, Olga May, she had a coffee can filled with bacon grease. And I saw her reach into that with a spoon to make her fried cabbage, or with, her hand sometimes to make biscuits. She would have the self-rising flour, the white lily flour, and some buttermilk. And then she'd grab a handful of bacon fat and just start working it all together with her hands, which is something I'm literally going to try.
Nice.
Because it just feels like I need to feel that in my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's also very moisturizing, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
For the skin. My grandpa, he was from Tennessee, and he kept a Folgers coffee can of bacon grease in the fridge. Yep. Mm-hmm.
My grandmother too.
Yeah.
But so the one thing, I think for a while it was actually sitting out. This sparked a memory that when I would go see my grandmother, and she would, make the big family Sunday lunch or dinner, what you call it, or Thanksgiving, that as I got older, I recognized she was leaving stuff out like all day long. So we'd get done with the meal and she'd just cover it up and set it on the stove. And to this day, I don't know how we avoided food poisoning.
Yeah.
As I'm like, the turkey is sitting in the oven all afternoon just to stay out of the way. It is. I don't know.
I feel like, and I was a nurse for many years. This is just a microbiology major. This is my thinking. As a people in the 60s and the 70s, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't eat a lot of foods that had preservatives. Foods didn't have preservatives. So our bodies were conditioned to eat those foods, and we were fine because we had more natural gut flora.
Interesting.
That was used to that kind of food in our system. Now, for the past 30, 40, 50 years, we've been filling ourselves and our children with preservatives. And so they're not as well equipped. They don't have the same gut flora that we did. That's my thinking. I was a public health nurse, whole deal. They just aren't equipped because they just don't have the same kind of gut immunity that we did. So yeah, Olga May would make bacon, and she'd make all the things and then go to church. And then we'd come in and meet her after church, because we'd be driving in from like an hour and a half away. We'd come in and the food would be on the stovetop. And then, we would just either eat it or maybe pop it in the oven and warm it up. But it had been sitting there for probably 3 hours. And then it sat there 3-4 more hours while we all sat and chatted. Maybe went out on the screen porch and had an iced tea, came back in, and we'd have second lunch or supper.
Love it.
I think we were you just described like some of my childhood. I was like, are you sure we weren't like in each other's houses? That was just a very classic way of life, and the way we did things. So yeah.
Outside and you'd fan away the mosquitoes. And
we had a screened-in porch. My grandparents had a screened-in porch.
Yeah, we had a screen porch,
and that was a big deal.
Sometimes Olga May liked to go outside and sit on the patio underneath the walnut tree, and she would fan herself to get rid of what you call them, the midgies, the little or no-see-ums, she called them.
No-see-um is what we would call them.
Yeah, no-see-ums, yeah.
Or just actually just mosquitoes too, but
And fan herself, and I remember I would pick walnuts off the ground and, break them open, and then we'd go back in and eat some more.
I have to ask you about your walnuts. Were they the black walnuts?
Yes.
Okay, that's because my dad talks about the black walnuts from Virginia. I think, Ashley, you and I have talked about it, I think on an episode. And he would talk about, it was great because as a kid, you got the way you had to open them was with a hammer. And,
yes.
What little boy doesn't want to, bang something with the hammers? And so it was a really cool thing. He talked about that. And actually, one of the things that I do in family history and genealogy is I'm really passionate about old family photographs. And, there was one, and I was like, Dad, what is this? He goes, well, it's the side of our log cabin, but that's the tree. And I'm like, what are you talking about? The tree? He said, that's a black walnut tree. And then he went, and then, started the whole story. But it was just it was a tree. It wasn't even a great picture. Today we would have deleted it in 2 seconds, but it was a really fascinating how this very, not very good picture from the 1940s triggered this whole memory and this whole, thing with the black walnut trees and the cakes and things like that. It was a really interesting thing. So when you said that, I was like, I bet that was black walnuts.
Yeah, she had a black walnut tree in the back, and in the front was a pecan tree. And so, we got to go pick them, and then you hit them with the hammer, and then she had those little picks, and you'd pick the meat out.
Yeah.
And if you got some of the inside, it was real bitter on your tongue. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we were definitely leading parallel lives there. Yeah. This episode of Passing the Plate is sponsored by Storied Book Recipes from Storied.
Hey, Lisa, you know how recipes are about more than just food?
Absolutely. They're memories, traditions, and stories passed down through generations.
Exactly. And that's why we're excited to share Storied Book Recipes from Storied with Passing the Plate listeners. Storied Book Recipes isn't just a cookbook, it's a beautiful way to gather, preserve, and share your family's culinary traditions. It allows you to capture recipes along with the stories and the family photos behind them all in one place.
Imagine gifting a beautifully printed storied book to your loved ones, filled with recipes, memories, and family history. It's more than a book, it's a timeless connection. Storied.com allows you to build your family tree, discover historical records, and share your family's story with future generations.
It's such a great way to keep your family's food and recipe traditions alive, which is what we're all about here at Passing the Plate.
Visit storied.com/plate or use code PLATE to save 20% off your first storied book and create something your family will treasure forever.
Circling back briefly to Korean cuisine, if people want to try cooking Korean food at home and they're maybe new to it, is there a recipe, perhaps from your lovely website, that you would recommend that they try, or maybe a few ingredients that they should start working with?
For ingredients, it's amazing how many different variations of recipes you can get from, like, just the few simple ones. There's soy sauce, rice vinegar, sesame oil, garlic, and ginger. Those ingredients, the 5 ingredients there, and then you can make a world of things around it. And if you want to try spice, you can buy. I think you can buy gochujang at regular grocery stores now, and it comes in a variety of spice levels. And so you start small and you work your way up. So it's funny that you asked, because just today and yesterday, I've been watching this video of me making one of my mom's dishes, Korean. It's braised Korean short ribs. And it's similar to a recipe that's much more involved that my mother used to make for special occasions called galbijim. And it's a short rib stew. And it cooks for a very long time with just all the big vegetables that you would expect and some turnips and things. But this one my mother would make when she was in a hurry. And it has, literally just like soy sauce, all those things I just mentioned. And you can make it in the slow cooker, or you can make it in your oven, either one. And I have a recipe on my blog for that, just braised Korean short ribs. Yeah. And it's kind of an entry-level recipe to see, do I like these flavors?
Okay, I love that. So
there's a little bit of the gochugaru, which is Korean chili flakes, but you can leave that out and just do it just straight and see if you like those flavors. You can get the gochugaru at an Asian store. You can get it online. If you don't, people will ask me if they can include like just regular red pepper flakes. No, it's a completely different flavor. Yeah.
And from what I've seen, you can only buy the Korean ones in a giant bag. Like there are no small containers that I've found.
They have shaker containers now. They have them through our online overlords. They have it, and it's in a shaker bottle.
Okay.
Because I accidentally got that one time. I'm like, I can't even make one kimchi with this.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. See, and I'm like, I cook Korean food, but not so often that I need, and I don't have a lot of storage space, these giant bags from H Mart, and it's like literally the only option, but that's good to know. Although I do like to just like split it with some friends. I'll be like, hey, do you want a little bag full of...
Right. And you can freeze it.
Oh, that's good to know. So as if you were reading my outline of questions we were going to ask you, you really were transitioning nicely into the next one, which was something Lisa and I talk about a lot, is modernizing family recipes and making them doable for your current lifestyle. So dietary preferences, stuff like that. Do you have any examples aside from your mother's stew that you've made, like a version of any other examples of recipes, Korean or not, that you've done that for?
That I've kind of adapted for modern day. Absolutely. Because, I have a classic pastry background. I've made puff pastry. I've made croissants. I've made all of the things. But one thing that my blog wants to accomplish is to make anybody feel like they can cook or bake, and to make sure that I accommodate all skill levels. Love. So I always include that, like, if you don't want to do this, you can buy this instead, right?
Yes.
So, and I try and break things down to make them as simple as possible. But for instance, I have a recipe for rough puff pastry for somebody who's like, gosh, I would love to make puff pastry. That sounds like something really cool, but wow, that seems really hard. So I have a rough puff pastry that I include then in a number of other recipes. But if you don't want to make rough puff pastry, store-bought is fine.
Right.
And
you're not being judged for it, which is the best part.
I don't,
right?
And I tell them all the time, I'm not judging you. I'm not in your kitchen. You do what feels good for you.
Exactly.
Same thing with, I like to buy as high a quality as I can of ingredients. But I make sure to tell people, this is what I use because I enjoy this, or I buy pasture-raised eggs because of this reason. But you need to buy the best one that you can afford. That's what I say over and over. That's a theme. Whatever, the best you can afford. And so then in my biscuit recipes, I have every level, right? I have full-on laminated flaky buttermilk biscuits where I use my cut and stack technique. And it has all the ingredients, the baking powder, the baking soda, a little bit of sugar to give tenderness to the biscuit, not sweetness. And I tell everyone why we're doing all those things. So that's where you want to make a biscuit, right? But then I also have, for people who might have like hand mobility issues, I say, let's put this one in the food processor. And you know what? Let's use milk, because you don't have buttermilk, or because you are one of those people who says to me, I don't know what to do with all that extra buttermilk. Oh, let's use milk today.
Yeah.
Or so I have every level. Or I don't feel like cutting butter in with my fingers. Go use a food processor. Or, hey, let's make these 2-ingredient cream biscuits today. They're amazing. Just mix these two things together and just plop them on your sheet pan and bake them. Delicious. So I try and accommodate all skill levels or all time constraints.
Mm-hmm. I love that you're meeting people where they are and not making someone feel excluded for whatever reason. Like they shouldn't not be able to have good food because they have a hard time with hand mobility or whatever. Which that you mentioned that somebody in a cooking class I did recently was asking about like a garlic press, and they're like, "Would that be hard for someone with hand mobility?" And I said, "You know what? I haven't thought about that, but yeah, it would."
So they should use a zester and grate
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
or just knife by hand. But yeah, I love that.
I just
I
want to
love
make
it.
sure that anyone can do something. And I
Mm-hmm.
always have those, caveats in there and those little ideas in there because I remember when I was doing my first recipes, they were very complicated. They were also things that nobody was looking for, which we
Yeah.
learned as we work, that if no one's searching for it, no one's going to find it.
Right.
But my daughter said, "Mom, what does this mean? What does this mean?" As she was proofreading me. And I was like, "It means what it says." And it reminds me of that Schitt's Creek where it's like, fold in the cheese. What does that mean? She says, "Mom, what does this mean?" And I'd say, "Oh." She said, "You have to write it for people like me who maybe don't know what that means."
Yeah. But I think that's one of the good things about somebody, yourself and myself who've had websites for such a long time. Like we know more now than we did then, and we can revise and update and make them
Mm-hmm.
so that people can follow them. And if you ever have extra buttermilk, I have a great recipe for cookies that use buttermilk. So if you're making biscuits and you need to make something with the rest of the buttermilk, I got you covered.
Right?
Yeah. Now I just want to spend the afternoon in the kitchen, guys. No.
Yeah.
And if I can say one thing that people take away from buttermilk, it's that if you can't find buttermilk, add lemon juice to your milk. It's not the same flavor. It's not the texture. It's not going to have the same effect that buttermilk does. The buttermilk works the way it does because of its unique chemical structure. And so that's what gives you tenderness and breaks apart protein fibers to give you tender crumb in your cake or your baked, whatever you're baking, right?
Mm.
If you can't find buttermilk, use yogurt, use kefir, use what you can find and you can afford. And if all else fails, use milk, but use a little bit less, or use plant-based. But don't come at me with your lemon juice and I've
Or
said this on
vinegar.
live Yeah, I've said this on live television. I've said, please don't do this. Unless you're making ricotta cheese, keep your lemon away from my milk. That's it.
Yeah, that's funny. You said that was the first substitution when it came to baking that my mother ever taught me.
And it's a common one, but as somebody
Mhm.
who has a chemistry background and who has worked professionally, it's just not going to, it's not, I tried it like when I was working in the bakery and we hadn't gotten our buttermilk delivery and I had to get the scones out. And I'm like, who'll know? They'll never know. Like that meme. They'll never know. Who's going to know? How would they know? So I just added lemon juice to milk and they did not come out. They didn't rise correctly. They didn't have the same crumb. They were it was a completely different thing, but it wasn't a scone.
I love that. That's really funny.
Who's going to know?
Yeah.
Everybody.
Who's gonna know? Who's gonna know?
Everyone's going to know.
Now I know you. I know you are the biscuit queen of New Jersey, and I know that your biscuits and that southern side is coming through from your dad's side of the family. And you, with your website being, but first we brunch. Was there any other out of all your? I'm thinking just myriad of food experiences. How was it brunch that you settled on? What was it about brunch that made you settle on that for your website focus?
So that's the funny story. Well, not really, not funny, but interesting. It's a very interesting story. It's actually like my origin story. If I was a superhero, the brunch
Love.
superhero that I am.
Before you turned evil.
Absolutely before I became an Avenger, a brunch Avenger. What happened was my family grew up on Pop-Tarts and cereal. I could still like do some damage to a box of cornflakes, like sugar, frosted flakes. But what happened was that My husband was working, he still works as a nurse. And he was working just a regular shift. And so we would eat dinner together as a family. Our youngest was still living with us. And then about 5 years ago, he left. He was working with psychiatric care, and he went back to the emergency room. And they told him he had to work 12-hour shifts. So he was going in, he was leaving the house at 10 in the morning and not getting back until after midnight. And coincidentally, a month later, COVID hit. So now, sometimes 7 days a week, his longest he worked was 21 days straight because so many other people were sick. And for some reason, he was like not getting it. So we only saw each other for breakfast. And at that time, I was dabbling as a blogger, very unsuccessfully, just like a blogger. And I was writing recipes for anything that came to my head. And then I started making breakfast. And that's when I started my real biscuit journey. Like, let's make Algame's biscuits. Let's make Dad's pancakes so I could feed him. And I started, following that and writing that down. And then within 6 months, that became my niche. That became the only meal that we would eat together would be breakfast every day. So it just seemed like the right evolution. And it really just like brought my father back into my life. Mm-hmm. It brought my, the foods I grew up with back in. It brought those Sunday French toasts and Saturday pancakes back into my brain. And so I just went with that. It just was like, sometimes you just hit something and it's like an aha moment. So I made a few breakfasts and I really hit an aha moment. And so that was how But First We Brunch was born.
That's great. And who doesn't love brunch? That. I mean, really.
It's a breakfast for dinner.
Amazing.
Oh,
like even when eggs were astronomically priced per pound over, animal proteins over meats, it was still a more affordable form of protein.
Oh, yeah.
So I made a couple of eggless recipes, but they just weren't who I was.
Yeah.
They're there. Like if you want an eggless pancake or an eggless muffin, I have a recipe for you. But otherwise, those eggs aren't going to cost you that much.
Yeah.
Like where else are you going to get like an entire meal of protein for less than $2?
Yeah. But can I sub lemon juice for an egg?
Absolutely. Actually, I did the whole eggless thing with pancakes, and there was a video. It's one of my reels. You have to go back and find it, where I actually left the camera to go spit and sink. It was substitute was so bad, but I
think I remember you posting that.
And I was like, oh, I just stood there and my face just went blank, and I just went, and I walked off camera and just spit.
Oh my gosh.
And I came out and I was like, no, just no.
So last question to kind of cover all the bases of what I know of what you do. Talk to us a little bit about how you got into teaching, because I know you teach cooking classes and you even do spots on local TV shows, and the recipes always look really wonderful and approachable. How did you get into that?
So when I decided that I'm going to do this whole breakfast and brunch thing, I was a theater kid from way back, like a musical theater kid.
This explains so much.
It really does.
I love it.
I gesture.
The circle is now completed.
I thought you talked with your hands because you were Southern, because that's what I do.
It's all of it. And I sang opera. I did musical theater. You name it, I did it. I was in a Burger King commercial in the 70s. Like, I've done it all. So for a while there, I was gearing up to be on the next Food Network star. I knew all of the people. We were talking, and then it got canceled. But the bug was still in my head. So I just kept trudging along. I auditioned or was asked to audition for a number of different Food Network shows. And finally, I backed out because I had to have some surgery. So when I decided that I wanted to really make a living doing this, my goal was ultimately to get people on my website, right? Because that's how we make money as food bloggers. I don't like to do brand deals. I don't like to do anything kind of sponsored content, because that's just not who I am, because it just doesn't feel authentic to me. but I wanted to build up my audience, both social media wise and otherwise, because ultimately that brings people back to my website.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do a cookbook, and you have to have some kind of social following in order for book publishers to think that you have an audience that will buy your book.
Right.
So being who I am, I just started sending out emails and sending out pitches. I started scouring the internet, trying to find out who's the booker on different shows. And I got bites. And then I show up, I bring everything. The place at the Pix 11 where I first started has no cooking facilities at all. They have a microwave. That's it. So I had to bring everything ready to go. And so I just showed up the first day, and everyone was asking me, was I nervous, right? Like, it's my first time doing not only live television, but any kind of television.
Mm-hmm.
And of all people, my inspiration was, of all people, Tracy Morgan from Saturday Night Live.
Wow.
He was on Kelly and Mark, which is still my dream appearance, still working on it. But anyway, he did an interview, and Kelly asked him if he was nervous about something. And his answer was, I don't get nervous. Nervous means you can't wait for something to end. I get excited because that means you can't wait for it to start.
Oh, I love that.
So that is literally, I was like, that is exactly how I feel. I can't wait to start. So I went out there first time, humbly speaking, killed it. I didn't think that there were millions of people watching me, because I'm in the largest CW market in the country, right? I'm at their flagship station. That didn't occur to me. There were just the hosts. I didn't even notice the camera people.
Mm-hmm.
There was just the two hosts, the food in front of me, and something I'm passionate about. And same thing with cooking classes. I teach at Heirloom Kitchen, the same place where I staged. I showed up one day and asked this James Beard nominated chef. I walk in cold, didn't even know him, said, I would like to stage with you. And he saw this older woman, probably in my head, he saw an old lady.
She was like 25. No, I don't know.
No, but probably pretty close here.
I was like 57, but in my head, why would he want this old lady to come in? And he said yes, but I could tell he was suspicious, like maybe I'm just a fan. And within 3 days, he's offering me a job.
Amazing.
So I still work with him, and I do classes at his restaurant. And there's no nerves. There's just, I love to just impart what I'm doing to people and explain it to them, the kind of the simple science behind it. Because when you understand why, it helps you to do it, right? It helps you with the how, because you know why.
Yeah.
Why am I doing that? Oh, so now they can do it. That's a short story long.
Love it. I love it.
I love it. I absolutely love it. All right. Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us today. And can you let the people know where they can find you online?
Yes, I am on Instagram at butfirst_webrunch. And my website is butfirstwebrunch.com. And yeah, come for all things breakfast and brunch.
Thank you.
I've already been poking around your website.
Oh yeah, as soon as I mentioned biscuits.
Making a list. Yeah. Making a list. I've been furiously taking notes over here. I'm like, oh, I need to try that recipe she talked about.
Yeah. You can follow along with Cynthia online by checking the links in the show notes for this episode at passingtheplate.org/65. That's a wrap on this episode of Passing the Plate. We hope you enjoyed our journey into the world of food, traditions, and the amazing connections they create.
It's been a pleasure sharing these stories and flavors with you. Remember, food is more than just sustenance. It's a way to connect with our past, present, and future.
So keep sharing your meals, keep passing those plates, and keep creating memories that will last a lifetime. Head to passingtheplate.org/podcast for show notes.